Well, howdy folks, Hellcracks here, and welcome to Mercenary Thoughts from the Inner Sphere, episode 122. Alright, today we're going to be talking about crunchies and some of their operations that you can do with them and how you can operate them in multiple different ways. Now, the infamous little crunchy is the little guys that run around on the battlefield that you see very seldom in a lot of games because people always like to play mechs on mechs. Occasionally some people like to throw vehicles in and they start realizing after a while it's like, oh, there's these other things, and they start getting infantry and they throw those in. So it's typically a progression later in the game that they start throwing in the combined arms when they start thinking about things, because early in the game when you first start playing, most people just play mech on mech. But they're missing out on some interesting little things that can be done with these really cheap infantry. For the price of a basic mech in the game, you can throw out 10, 12 stands of infantry that can be used as initiative sinks, harassment type units, kind of local control, because obviously, with infantry, your basic conventional infantry, they don't have a zone of control, which is their area of operation that they can extend out past their base for doing damage. It's not really that great. Typically, your typical infantryman is going to run out to 2-3 hexes. And if they got some SRMs, they might go out to 6 hexes, and then if they're really lucky, if they got some LRM launchers out there, they can go even farther, because you're really kind of hindered at what you can use, because typically riflemen are 2 hexes, machine guns go out to 3, laser troops go out to 3, and then your SRM troops go out to 6. So basically what you're doing is you're just having a local control. It's like if you're looking here in the little battle sequence right here, you have some buildings, like this would be the objective, and you got the infantry just hugging around the whole area. So basically they're controlling the different areas, different buildings and stuff. So if you need to take the buildings, let's say there's something in there, you can't blow the buildings up because there's some high-tech information in there, you got to go in. Well, they work great. Now, let's just kind of look at some of the different kinds of infantry. On page 213 of the Book of Information, aka known as Total Warfare. All right. We have foot infantry, which all infantry can carry this, basically a ballistic rifle, an energy rifle, a machine gun, SRM, LRM, or a flamer. Typically, I don't use flamer troops all that much unless I want to just start baking the entire region with fire. So usually, I like to use a combination of SRM troops and then some like laser infantry or ballistic rifle infantry. Because it also, there is a, your basic energy rifle foot platoons, they take up cargo space also, which we can get into here in a second, which I've talked about in previous editions of the show. There's 28 troopers in a platoon. Okay, so you get 28 of them. And then it progressively gets smaller as you go into different types of troops. So if you got SRM troops, you're going to have 24 troopers. And if you have a LRM launch missile troops, they have 20 guys on board in the platoon. Now, there is some problems with your straight foot infantry. They only have a 1 movement. They're foot sloggers in the game, so when you think about the game, it's not like hours of play. Each turn is like, I think, 10, 15 seconds or something like that. So roughly the distance that those troops can move in that time period. So they can only move 1. Now, the SRM, the LRM troops, and the flamer troops, they have a problem because they have to assemble, disassemble, however if you move, you can't fire them. All right, there's a problem there. So they're the best type of troops if you're going to be digging them in. You just put them in place into hard points or something, and they just have a control area that they take care of and let the enemy come to you. That's basically how you use a lot of infantry, is you let the enemy come to you in most cases if you don't have battle taxis. Now the next type of troops are your mechanized platoon. These guys take up 6 tons of space if you put them on a battle taxi. And it's the same thing with mechanized, but they the strength and size and everything of the platoon's the same as the foot guys. And one advantage is with mechanized troops, you can have them in vehicles. They're basically loaded up on like jeeps, trucks, hovercraft type of thing. So it's a very basic type of movement vehicle, and they move 3 or 2. Now your SRM, LRM, and flamer guys once again are only moving 2, so they are limited how fast they can go. Okay, so there is that. So it's not a overtly big problem, but you know, they have some mobility to them, so they can displace slowly to someplace if they need to be. And typically I'm not a big fan of using mechanized troops. I'd rather use straight leg or jump troops. Okay, now the jump troops, they have a 3 movement and they jump. So if they jump 3, they're obviously going to have a modifier there. We talked about this with the elementals in the previous episode. So if they jump 3 hexes, they get the 1 modifier for the distance, 1 for jumping, and then being a dispersed infantry. Infantry are dispersed, so there's some modifiers to shoot them. All right, so. But jump infantry also have a problem when it comes to size. So there's only 21 in a rifle platoon. You got 18 of them in an SRM, 15 in an LRM, and 21 in the flamer. So that is those kind of guys. All right. I prefer using jump ones, but comes with a cost of, well, obviously is less troops, so it's easier to kill them off quickly. All right. Then we got the mechanized platoon infantry. These guys can move 5 and 4, just like the other ones. Then there's wheeled ones, which go 4 and 3. Then there's tracked ones, which go 3 and 2. All right. So a mechanized platoon is a little faster. They go 5 versus a motorized one. But, you know, your mileage may vary. Now, how I like to use my infantry is I look at the costs, and typically if you want to spend 500, let's say you want to spend 500 points on infantry, it would help use them as spotters, for indirect fire, that kind of thing. They work great. That's one of the lovely things about infantry, is that you can just park them in some place in a building or something, on a high hill dug into some place, and then just use them as your indirect spotters. They're not moving, so it makes it easier to hit targets. So if you got let's say a archer or something like that, they work great with. It's like you use them in combination with it. But I always like to have some ballistic guys. First of all, let's just bring it up here. This is over, all the information is over the Battletech Master List Unit, which is go to www.masterunitlist.info unit details. So that's where you can find it. It's over in the catalyst. All right. Maybe I'll put a link to it down in the description. But your basic line infantry, foot, running around with Gauss or laser rifles, around 70 points. All right, so they're not that expensive. So you could put some stands out there and be able to fill out a force. Now, if you wanted to go LRM foot infantry, that's 57. Now, that's not expensive at all. So you could, if you wanted to throw out some little bit plinking damage, you know, infantry don't really do a lot of damage. It's more like harassment fire and initiative sinks. That's always kind of like how I like to use them. And it's hard to kill them unless you got flamers and machine guns. So if you ever look at a battle mech and you wonder why there's flamers and machine guns on it, it's because of infantry. So if you ever never play infantry, a lot of people say, I'm getting rid of my machine guns, I'm getting rid of my flamers, because what good are they? You got to be so close to use them. Well, here's the reason why. Now, if you look at the jump infantry, they get a little more expensive. Your basic laser 66, LRM is 49. So it's a little bit less, but because there's less guys. All right. Remember I telling you about how there's less infantry in those type of platoons or jump infantry? That's the reason for it. So you're not paying for a lot of guys. So that's why it's a little cheaper. Now the motorized, mechanized guys, they're slightly more expensive, like 84. The LRM one is 71. You're paying for that mobility, the speed. So that's one of the problems that you have with it. That's why you're spending a little bit more money in the battle value to take them out onto the field. Now, one of the things that some people don't like about infantry is that when you roll the hit, they don't have to worry about their movement modifiers. That's a nice thing about it. But you roll, see if you hit. If you do hit, then you got to look at the chart and see what page is it on. Which a few pages down. All right, here we go. This is page 216. Generic conventional infantry damage table. So you look at how many infantry there are. Say you got a full 28. You roll. All right, you hit. You got some ballistic rifle troops, and all right, they can do 15 points of damage. Then after you look at it, then you got to go over to the cluster table. All right, so and not necessarily going to do a lot of damage, but it could be, you know, you get lucky enough with the old snake eyes when you roll location. If you're rolling floating crits, that can go someplace, even ahead, get head hits. You know, it adds up. It's anything, a little bit of damage that may throw it over, so they have to take a pilot check, maybe fail, and then fall over due to damage. All right. Now, infantry can do these wonderful things called swarm attacks. Let's say there's a mech down, lost a leg, so it's not moving very well. So they could do an anti-mech attack. It doesn't work too well usually, but it can do some damage. And so it's basically they attack the legs. You know, they're going in and trying to take legs out. So if you're trying to attack something that's huge and it has a lot of armor, yeah, okay, it's typically not working out in your favor too much, but you know, it can do the job here and there. All right, now let's say you are dug in as you're looking at the video here, and you got all the infantry, and you're seeing the battle taxis there, like a Maxim park there. You can get, like, I prefer using hovercraft because they have a lot of speed. All right, and let's say a Maxim, the ones I usually make up, carry around 6 tons of cargo space, so they could put 2 straight leg infantry platoons. All right, so they got some good speed with them, and it takes a 1 movement point of the movement of the, let's say the Maxim, to unload the infantry. So you rush up really fast, get to the place you want them, and then they dump off, and they use their movement to get out and move to whatever location it may be. All right. So infantry, no matter what, you know, they can always go 1 hex. All right. So they can get to 1 hex to wherever it may be. And get into position so they can unload, go. There you go. Type of thing. And that is the other way that you can move your infantry up into a position, get them to where you need to be quickly. And that's why I like using really, like, there's also the ones I have, like specially modified Pegasus that has 1 cargo ton, and I like to use break up, let's say, a platoon, pay for the platoon and break it up, so you put in a squad of infantry on each one of them, and you rush them out, and you get, basically, you got a low strength type of infantry squad. And those work really good with you know, I always like to play them where you can consolidate, if they all unload in the same spot, consolidate them into 1 hex or 1 stand, or just have them each separately. And that's basically your LRP teams that are your spotters. You know, they're really cheap type of thing. That's how I like to use them, is you know, you buy a few of them and then use your Pegasus rushing around and blasting away at targets at range. If you put an LRM launcher and an SRM launcher on them or something of that nature. Okay, so that is pretty much it for that, for when you're talking about battle taxis. There's other ones out there. There's a whole slew of APCs that, you know, are listed in the 3050 books or the 3039 books when they're talking about vehicles. And you're able to look through it and it's like, oh, okay, I want just your conventional APC. You know, it doesn't cost very much in battle value. And that's the thing, is that a lot of times you're just looking to get your infantry into a position as quick as possible. All right. Now, infantry really shine, especially jump infantry, is in, let's say you get into a city fight where everything is limited to certain ranges. Your line of sights are limited. So you can throw infantry into buildings. Now, I prefer to use jump infantry because at least they can get into up to a level 3, jump into a building. Now, if it's a higher level building, you know, you can always go up a level at a time, just like they're running up the stairs, getting to a higher level, higher level, higher level. Or jump to a level 3 here, and then jump to a level, you know, jumping up levels type of thing from one building to another. You know, it doesn't say really, it's like you can only make so many level changes, but doesn't mean you can't go from one level building to the next level building going up, because you're already paid for the cost of going up a level. So that's kind of like how I like to use them too. And then if you're not going to fire them, say you got some SRM or LRM jump troops, you get them into position if they haven't been pre-deployed, line them up in there, cover your lanes or avenues of approach, and they are support troops. All right, so you use them as harassment, doing plinking fire, that kind of thing. Especially, they work really good. It's like, okay, you have all the big mechs are firing, they take off a lot of armor. Then the infantry can fire and then do a lot of plinking too, just like anything else, because their shots go into what is it, 3-point shots or something like that. When it comes into you figure out how much damage they're going to do, and then you divvy up their damage by how much they're dishing out. Okay, that works out good. Now, there is one thing that are great about infantry, is that when you're being fired at, unless it's a machine gun or a flamer, it takes a lot of damage to kill an infantry platoon, especially if you got a ballistic infantry platoon, you know, with 28 guys in it. Because you can, let's say you got an AC-20 and you blast them and hit them with an AC-20. You know, you take the amount of damage that you have and divide it. So ballistic, and so divide it by 10. So an AC-20 hitting a platoon of 28 guys, killed 2. Right? So you just threw an AC-20 at some infantry just to kill 2 guys. So it doesn't work all that well. Let's say you got a PPC. You take it, divide it by 10. All right, you did 10. You do 10 points of damage. You killed 1 trooper. So, and if you hit him with a let's say a large laser, 1 guy. That's the nice thing about it. Takes a lot for mechs to kill infantry unless they have machine guns and flamers. Because if a machine gun hits a infantry platoon, it does 2d6 amount of damage. And if you get a couple machine guns out, let's say 2 machine guns and they both hit the infantry stand, you got to get up in their face to do it. But if you hit, that's 4d6. Now, if you hit them with a mech flamer, that's 4d6. It's basically just barbecuing guys. So you can almost technically take out, with 1 flamer, almost take out a complete platoon. Now, if you have a couple flamers, I've done it before where, let's say, a Vulcan hits a platoon, it's gone. I've taken them out with just 1 Vulcan. And that's why the Vulcan is such a nice little mech, or a fire starter. They're 2 good mechs that you can run around with to cook out infantry. All right, we've talked about it before in the 39 book. There's a reason why they have those in the game. Because if people run infantry heavy, you're going to need something to take them out. And if you're trying to control a location, infantry are going to take a lot of work to dig them out. All right, they just dig in hard. Hopefully that answers a few questions about some of the thought processes I like to use with them. With infantry, if you're going to be in a position and you're able to plot everything where they're going to be in a defensive position, and you got the points you want to buy, let's say you can spend 1,000 points on infantry. Take some LRM infantry, some SRM infantry, and some basic rifle infantry. Let's say some foot ones or jump troops, in case you want to jump a little bit or get a little bit of maneuvering around to get some angles or something. Buy some of a little bit of everything, because you want to have your interlinking or interlocking fields of fire. Typically, I like to run the SRM and LRM. The LRM troops are going to be farther back because they have a little bit farther range with their weapons. Then you can have the SRMs, and the basic infantry are going to be right out front and in the face. So, and if you are supporting with, like I said, with an archer, they can make great indirect observers. So they can call in fire for you and direct it in on your target. So a little crunchy little guys, they are worth the money in battle value. There's been many games where the infantry take so long to take out and are such a problem and a harassment problem, it's worth it. All right. So think about it. Hopefully this answers a few questions about infantry. And we will talk with you later. Hellcorrects out.